garden plants, in medieval London, there would have been nothing of the colour and variety of the plants that we see today. Our predecessors concentrated on more green, edible plants and medicinal herbs. Now, thanks in part to the Victorian plant hunters, exotics from all over the temperate zone have found their place in our gardens. Gardeners and breeders have gone on to multiply them into an infinite number of varieties. At the Chelsea Flower Show each May, as many as 100 new varieties are exhibited. Genera continuing to bloom from April, many with new later varieties include Bellis anemone, Brunera, Begonia, Camazia, Cardamine, Chiranthus, Epimedium fritillaria, Iberis limonanthus, Myosotis ornithogallum, Veronica polyanthus, Polygonatum, Viola, and Vinca. Garden plants, more typical of May itself and widely found now in London's front gardens, is a formidable list including Aquilegia allium, Acanthus asphodel, Armeria calendula, Campanula centaurea, Cistus, Convallaria, Convolvulus, Corridalis, Dicentra, Ericium, Echium, Euphorbia gentiana, Geranium, Gladiolis, Heuchera, Helianthemum, Iphaean, Iris, Lamium, Liberta matiola, Mecanopsis nigella, Osteospermum oxalis, Peonia, Phlox potentilla, Rosa scilla, Stachys, Telema, Tiarella, Pholictrum trillium, Troius tulipa, Pepeva, Leucanthemum atsifraga, Symphytum lignis, Leptospermum, Actinidia, Dianthus, and Xanthidicia. Some small familiarity of these many genera would allow you to generally recognize most of the garden plants that you are likely to encounter this month. In water gardens, irises and marigolds are now joined by Scot cabbage, candelabra primroses, and water lily. For the more ambitious garden lover, rarer genera can be seen at Kew, such as Aracema, Asarum, Ranunculus, Diasporum, Clintonia, Helonias, Heloniopsis, Erythronium, Scapalia, Scoliopsis silene, and Uvularia. Irises are among the most familiar and widespread of garden flowers this month. In mythology, Iris was Juno's messenger conducting her errands along rainbows. The astonishing range of colour in irises reflects this myth. Only 3 iris species are found wild in Britain. The most familiar is our native iris, Iris pseudochorus. This was a stalwart of the medieval garden and still is today. It is the fleur-de-lis of France and the emblem of the Crusaders. According to legend, Clovis, the king of the Franks, escaped capture from the Goths when he noticed a shallow part of the river being indicated by the presence of irises. Having waded through and escaped, he went on to adopt the flower as his insignia. It has been used for the same purpose ever since by many princes, including our own present Prince of Wales. The second wild iris is easy enough to find in our woods. This is the Gladden iris, Iris fetidissima, or roast beef plant. When its leaves are bruised, they emit one of the strangest of all scents, that of warm roast beef. The last iris can only rarely be found in London gardens a little earlier in the year. This is the snake's head or widow iris, Hermodactylus tuberosus, which is naturalized in the West Country. It has sinisterly coloured green and yellow flowers with velvety black falls. It was cultivated by the Greeks, Romans, and Egyptians. Egyptian kings carried sceptres, which had the iris as a motif. Its 3 petals were thought to symbolize faith, wisdom, and labour. Another well-known iris is the Florentine iris, Iris germanica florentina, so called as it was commonly grown near Florence to produce orris root. Orris roots smell rather unpleasant when they're first dug up, but after 2 years of drying, they develop a deep, penetrating violet odour. Theophrastus, Dioscorides, and Pliny were all great fans. Pliny went as far to say that the best ones came from Dalmatia. For Romans, it was a staple ingredient of their unguents. Later, it was used to cure what they call saucy face or pimples, and was also chewed to remove the smell of tobacco. In more recent times, it has been an ingredient in toothpaste and also potpourris. There are over 100 different species of iris, innumerable hybrids, and endless varieties. Every colour of iris imaginable can be seen by just walking around London's gardens. Reasonably good collections exist in West Ham Park and Middleton House. Peonies, so loved by the Chinese and cultivated by them for centuries, are a firm garden favourite. Some are said to live for over 100 years if they are left undisturbed. They probably arrived with the Romans. The first was the male peony, Peony mascula, which was cultivated in monastery gardens. Then the female peony, Peony officinalis, arrived from Crete in the 16th century. Its double forms are still with us today. Wild peonies were at one time found around the Thames estuary, where they were said to be as hardy as docks. Tree peonies are rather less common in our gardens, although 39 varieties have arrived since the 10th century. Aquilegias have been known in London's gardens since records began, and were probably here before that. In medieval paintings, animals often lay down in fields dotted with columbines, indicating they were resting in paradise. Before the mid-17th century, only the common columbine, Aquilegia vulgaris, was found here, although it did have a number of naturally occurring different colour forms, such as white, mauve, red, and even some which had two colours. Later came the long-spurred and striped varieties we see everywhere today. Bleeding Heart Dicentrus spectabilis is another garden plant that also stands out now. Its old name of Lady in the Bath is understandable if the flower itself is turned upside down. It was introduced by the great Scottish plant hunter Robert Fortune in 1816 from the island of Tristan. Such was its immediate popularity, in just 6 years some gardens had clumps up to 9 metres in diameter. It has to be said this was when horse manure, on which it thrives, was much more easily available. Robert Fortune, 1812 to 1880, was responsible for over 250 introductions, many of which brought previously unknown colour to London's gardens, especially in the winter. Ornamental onions, allium species, are currently a great favourite. In Elizabethan London, they were known as mollies. Gerard was known to grow 9 different mollies in his garden, and Parkinson had 14. Frank Kingdom Ward, 1885 to 1958, was another schoolboy hero explorer for the likes of Shackleton and Scott. He looked for plants in Assam, Yunnan, Sichuan, Burma, and discovered the mystical blue poppy of Tibet, Mecanopsis betonifolia. He collected a pound of its seed in the 1920s, from which most of our present plants are descended. As recently as 1927, they were such a sensation that they sold for a guinea apiece, even with Gertrude Jekyll buying them. Beside their extraordinary shade of blue, perversely, unlike most other plants, they open their flowers from the top downwards. This means they are best seen now when there are no shrivel flowers above the open ones.